Okay, here we go. We're going to get into subtracting fractions. And just like adding, the steps are exactly the same, but this time we're going to subtract and regroup if necessary. Because you know when we subtract numbers, sometimes we have to regroup. Okay, so let's take a look at one without regrouping. We're going to start without regrouping. So we have 12 and 3/4, and I'm going to subtract 4 and 1/3. Okay, so first step is what are the least common multiples of 3 and 4? That's what I'm looking for, the LCM of 3 and 4. So the LCM of 3 and 4, if I skip count by 3s and I skip count by 4s, I will get 12, okay? 12 is the LCM, the least common multiple. So we are going to make equivalent fractions out of 12. That's my goal, okay? So my LCM is the denominator. That's what I want, okay? The least common multiple is the denominator. And now I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number to make equivalent fractions, okay? So 3 times what? How many 3's make a 12? Well, 3 times 4. And again, using that multiplication chart, I have it up over here. Again, you can find it in our virtual classroom, online math tools. It'll open up this window and it's down here at the bottom. Okay, this is great. So if you need this for any purpose whatsoever, it's here. So if you're having a hard time with your least common multiples, you can come over here. I have these from the last activity, but you can come over and skip count by 3s, skip count by 4s, and voila. Okay, least common multiple. All right, so here we go. Numerator and the denominator by the same fraction, 4/4. It's the same as 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 4/12. 1/3 is the same thing as 4/12. We just broke it down into smaller groups of 4, pieces of 4. Okay, same thing up here. Times 3 times 3. This is 1 whole. So we're multiplying 3/4 times a fraction that is the same as a whole. And we get 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 3 is 12. Check. Okay. I've just created equivalent fractions. Okay, now I'm going to subtract. Now, I noticed that I have a 9 in the numerator, the 9 in the numerator, and a 4 in the numerator. And I know that when I have a 9 and I can take 4 away, I don't need to regroup because I actually physically have 9 and I'm taking 1, 2, 3, 4 away. That leaves me with 5. Okay, so it's kind of basic subtraction, but you get it. Okay, so 9 minus 4 is 5. So we're left with 5/12. Don't forget about the whole numbers. 12 minus 4, that's 8. And my answer is 8 and 5/12. Remember, we talked about simplify if needed. 5 is a prime number. Okay, 5 is prime. It has no factors but 1. 12 is even. 12 has a couple factors, but we can't use any of them to count by 5s, and we can't count by 5s and land on 12. So we're done. We're finished. We didn't have to simplify for that one. Now, remember that cool tool I showed you in the last class? We also have one for subtraction. Again, you can find that in our virtual classroom at the bottom of our manipulatives for math, okay? I'm going to show you how this works. Again, it won't work for the whole numbers, but we can definitely use and check it for the fractions. Okay, so I'm going to do 9/12. Oh, that's right. I have to change the denominator first. It won't let you make an improper fraction. Unfortunately, it has to be a fraction. Oh, and sometimes it gets a little weird, so try again. All right, 9/12. And, oh, wait, no, I want to start with the original. Sorry, guys. 3/4. I want to start with the original so I can show you how it helps you. Okay, and the other one was 1/3. Okay, now we have our fraction. So we're looking at just the fraction, not the whole numbers. 3/4 minus 1/3. Again, it'll make the model for you, which I love. I love seeing the picture so you can see what's actually happening. Okay, and I'm looking for that least common multiple. I haven't found it yet. Oh, there it is, 12. The model will be broken down into 12 for you. You can click this little button and it will rewrite the fraction for you so you can see it. 9/12 minus 4/12, and the answer is 5/12. Now, it won't work with your mixed numbers, but at least you can check it with your subtraction. Now, here's where the tricky part comes, when you have to regroup. So we're going to do one where we have to regroup. And this is what gave some of you a little bit of some struggle in class. So here's one we'll do together. 25 1/3 minus 7 3/5. Everything is the same. Least common multiple of 3 and 5. So if I'm thinking of the multiplication, like I'm skip counting, how many 3s, I can count by 5s, and it's 15. Okay, so again, I am running a little quicker on that, but if you need to use the multiplication chart and look at your multiples of, or your factors of 3, or skip count, list your multiples of 3, list your multiples of 5. Where do they meet? 15. Okay, here we go. Make equivalent fractions. 15. How many 5s make a 15? We're multiplying that numerator and the denominator by 3/3, which is the same as 1. 3 times 3 is 9. 3/5 is the same as 9/15. 3 times 5/5. 1/3 times 5/5 is 5/15. Again, they are equivalent. And remember, at the very, very beginning of the lesson, we reminded ourselves that we could use this fraction tool and actually make the fractions if we really want to see them. But again, at this point, we're trying to rely on our math to help us. You can use the models if you need to, but it will take you a little bit more time, which is fine, okay? But just understand, numerator and denominator are the same, so it's a balanced scale. So it's like you're keeping it balanced. All right, now we have the problem that I cannot take 5 from 9. I have 5. I can't take 9 away from that without regrouping. So what I'm going to do, and this is where it gets a little tricky, so stay with me. Just like you would subtract, let's say, a number like 291 minus 73, okay? If you had this problem here, you actually have 200s, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 10s, and 1 1, and you want to subtract 3. You can't do that, right? So you actually are regrouping, okay? You're going to the tens place, okay? You're taking one of the 10s, and you're giving it to the 1s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So instead of having 11, or 1, we now have 11. A group of 10 plus 1. There you go. Okay, so the concept is the same with fractions. You're doing the exact same thing. You're just going to come over here to the whole numbers, and you're going to take 1 away from the whole number. So instead of 24, I'm just going to take 1 away, and it's now 20. Instead of 25, it's now 24. You could just change the 1's place. I just changed the whole number. It's just my strategy. All right, and I'm going to, just like I did here, I'm going to give the 1, because it's a 1 whole, to the fraction. The problem is, if I give it as a whole, I'm going to have 1 and 5/15, right? Okay, so if I add 1 here, I actually have 1 and 5/15. That's a mixed number. I don't want a mixed number. I want an improper fraction. Okay, that's what I want, because I need to subtract. So instead of using 1 whole, the number 1, I'm going to add a whole in the form of a fraction. Remember, we've been talking about numerator and the denominator are the same. It's the same as a whole. So when you are regrouping in subtraction, you want to regroup with your 1 whole in the form of a fraction. Anytime the numerator and the denominator are the same, it's the same as 1 whole. So I'm just giving 1 whole, just like I did here, 1 and 5/15, but instead of 1, I'm giving it as 5/15. Now, why did I choose 15? Well, because that's what the denominator is, right? So my denominators need to be the same. So I wouldn't want to add 5/5. 5/5 isn't going to do me any good because I'd have to change the denominator. So I'm going to add 15/15, and altogether, when I'm finished with that, I have 20/15. which is the same thing as 1 and 5/15. 1 and 5/15 is the same thing as 20/15. They're equivalent, okay? But I want it in an improper fraction so that I can subtract, okay? So now I can subtract 20 minus 9, which is 11. 24 minus 7, 17. Prime number, okay? 11 is prime. They share no common factor. We don't need to simplify. So the regrouping is where it gets a little tricky because you're actually doing the same thing as when you subtract. You're going to the place value next, taking one of those place values. So we're taking a 10 and giving it to the ones. Well, here we're taking a whole number and we're giving it to the fraction. Same thing, but we just need it as an improper fraction or as a fraction as a whole in the form of a fraction. Okay, so I hope that helps you with the subtraction.